Is Madigan an impediment to progress that you want to make?
Sure. So let me give a multi-syllable answer now. And I think I heard in the back of your head the question, now what are you going to do about it? So let me answer that one too, if you don't mind. Look, let me start here. Mike Madigan's been there too long. Mike Madigan's too powerful. That power that he has held the state of Illinois back. I think it's held the Democratic Party back too, to be honest. I'm getting a lot of nods. Somebody snapped in the back of the room. I'm a little told to snap, but I like when other people do. That wasn't a real controversial thing to say, but dude, I assure you there are rooms I go to as a Democratic candidate in a primary, in a statewide race, where that's a very controversial thing to say, but I say it there too, because I think it needs to be said. When I was first elected, one of the first things I did was I put in a constitutional amendment that says you can't be Speaker of the House or Senate President or Minority Leader for more than 10 years. By the way, that was before that was cool. That wasn't in the headlines then. It was just something I believed in. I believed in it because I know that if you serve in that role for years and years and years and years and accrue more and more and more and more power because you're able to do more favors for more different people, but you're only accountable in an election to the voters of your own district, which is less than 1% of the state, there's a fundamental imbalance there. And so I've been on the opposite of intra-party battles for Mike Madigan throughout my career. If he had his way, I wouldn't have been elected in the first place. I beat him. If he has his way now, I won't be elected governor either. I'm going to beat him again. But I'll also say this. I think it's a mistake to focus too much of our attention on one person. Because what we have is a broken system. And if we get obsessed with one guy and don't fix the system, and then he leaves, we're not going to see that much change. I think we have to name the problem, and as Democrats, name our own role in the problem, and be honest about it, but also then have plans to fix the system, not just to get rid of one person. And to me, the most important thing to say about Mike Madigan is this. Mike Madigan doesn't disagree with our views on public policy. Mike Madigan doesn't agree with our views on public policy. Mike Madigan couldn't care less about public policy. That's just not what makes him tick. That's not what he focuses on. He's interested in maintaining power. He's interested in staying on as Speaker. He's interested in making sure that the majority of Democrats is elected to the House of Representatives and that they pick him as their Speaker. And if he can be seen that those goals are advanced by doing what we know to be the right thing, he'll be on our side. The best example of that is on the issue of reproductive freedom, where for decades of his career, he was 100% anti-choice. Completely. And then starting about 10, 15 years ago, he just flipped. Became strongly pro-choice, fighting hard for reproductive freedom. So you might ask, why? Was it the outcome of some kind of lengthy soul search? Perhaps he met someone whose wrenching personal story helped him understand that government should not stand in between a woman and her right to control her own body. But that was not it. What it was that he figured out that most of the swing districts for the House that could go to either a Democrat or a Republican were in the suburbs around Chicago, and most of the swing voters in those districts were very strongly pro-choice. And so if he wanted to win those seats and stay on as Speaker, he had to fight hard for the pro-choice cause. And he flipped like that. Like that. And that's pretty weird, right? Like, if you just think about your own position on that issue, whatever side you're on, it's probably pretty personal, it's probably pretty emotional, it's a moral choice you probably made, core values choice you probably made. You probably wouldn't just flip 180 degrees for some kind of external political consideration, but that's his choice, it's not our problem. Our opportunity is to understand that and to adjust our behavior accordingly. And so what we need to do is to build a political movement that's able to apply pressure. So imagine this. Imagine that we are successful in this campaign, in growing this movement big enough to elect me governor. That's not going to happen because I outspend the other candidates. It's going to happen because we work together. And imagine if the day after the election, instead of, holding a big party and congratulating ourselves and then going off to the rest of our lives that we had before this campaign effort, imagine that instead we stick together. And we keep that network together, and we keep that movement together. And then imagine that sometime in February of 2019, where I'm a recently inaugurated governor, there's a crucial tax reform bill that we've got to get through. And Madigan doesn't really see it as something that he wants to necessarily move on. And so imagine that next weekend, we generate 250 calls into every single Democratic state representative's office. By the way, I said 250. I didn't say 250,000. I didn't say 2,500. I said 250. If that next week, when the legislative week starts, 30 or 40 Democratic state representatives walk into Mike Madigan's office in room 300 of the Capitol building, and they all say, whoa, we got 250 calls this weekend saying we got to be for the Biss tax plan, that will move it. That's enough. It doesn't take thousands and thousands and thousands. It takes hundreds of people sprinkled across the state prepared to fight for a progressive agenda. That's why this campaign is exciting to me. It's about building the infrastructure we need, not just to elect somebody, but to actually govern, to actually hold government accountable, to use the electoral mandate to genuinely change lives in Illinois. I think it's doable, and I think this is the moment to do it. And that fundamentally is what brought me to this race for governor.